Hello there, kia ora. Right now, the country is reeling again from another tragic extreme weather event. It may feel like these are happening more often than they used to, and well, they are, according to the experts. NIWA data shows that we're experiencing 5 times more temperature extremes than expected when compared to the last decade. 8 of the 10 warmest years on record for the country have occurred in the last decade. NIWA data also shows that warmer air holds more moisture, about 7% more for every 1 degree of warming, which means heavier downpours with more water. The 2021 Canterbury floods were determined to be 10 to 15% more intense than expected due to this impact from climate change. Cyclone Gabriel's rainfall intensity in 2023 was increased 20 to 30% because of it, and environmental scientists are already saying they expect this week's events were exacerbated in the same way because, well, that's the constant in these extreme events. In 2023, insurance companies paid out more for extreme weather-related claims than for the 22 previous years combined. Stats NZ data shows between 1972 and 2022, drought frequency increased at 18 of the 30 environmental monitoring sites that it monitors across the country, and together, drier dries make wetter wets worse because the ground loses the ability to soak in the excess moisture. But don't worry, Shane Jones wants to stop banks from making woke calls around financing and service provision to polluters, so clearly all the science stuff is too hard for the coalition to understand. And outside of yet another performative dog whistle to the seemingly addled brains of New Zealand First voters, this government has one of the worst records on dealing with climate-related issues of any government we've ever had. They cancelled the clean car discount. They brought back oil and gas exploration, claiming it was some kind of quick fix to the energy sector. They removed agriculture from the emissions trading scheme, scrapped the Auckland Regional Fuel Tax, which was used to pay for alternative transport infrastructure in our biggest city. They cancelled light rail in Auckland, introduced a fast-track approvals process that meant environmental oversight could be ignored according to their own internal experts, cancelled the Lake Onslow hydro scheme, let's get Wellington moving, they scrapped funding for the government investment in decarbonising industry and He Waka Eke Noa. They gutted the Climate Emergency Response Fund for those tax cuts, gutted funding on the Climate Change Commission, halved international climate finance to help developing nations decarbonise, scrapped funding for walking and cycle lanes, pulled back on funding native forest replanting, shut down internal government units set up to help regions move away from fossil fuels, cut funding for agricultural greenhouse gas research and the Community Renewable Energy Fund. They've decided to review methane reduction targets, claiming it should be treated differently to carbon dioxide because, well, honestly, Groundswell lobbied for it with the help of a quack scientist and claimed the way to fix methane output was to literally rely on technology that hasn't been invented yet and making changes that mean we will likely fail to meet international obligations which will impact our free trade deals, all while claiming they really do care for the environment. As Tamapotaka allows native wildlife to be killed in the name of infrastructure, and Shane Jones goes on mad rants talking about killing indigenous animals to plunder the country's rare minerals for overseas buyers. So while the Prime Minister puts on his sad face this weekend while visiting the impacted areas and meets people still reeling from the shocking and tragic events of the week, it is really important to remember that these type of weather events will keep happening and New Zealanders will continue to be impacted, and this government has done more to ensure that than any government this century. Before he was elected, Luxon actually claimed National believed more needed to be done to mitigate the impacts of climate change as opposed to finding ways to stop climate change from worsening. But as we enter the election year, it feels like he hasn't done either. In fact, it feels like more examples of how data-led decision-making just isn't the vibe that this coalition was ever going for. I guess it's just too woke. Oh, hey there, podcast listeners. Thanks for checking out today's podcast, whether that's on video or audio. I really appreciate it. And I did finally get around to doing a podcast end tag, which I've been meaning to do for a while instead of just taking you onto the Facebook version. So while you're here, why not hit that subscribe button so that you can get updates coming in directly every time there's a new episode uploaded. Just seems like a really simple way to keep up to date with all of the crazy that's going on. So yeah, give that a shot and I'll talk to you soon.